1.
Well, we finally made it, folks. My name is Dayan, and welcome to my first podcast. I have this theory about life. You can either overthink your way out of an idea, or you can be impulsive, take action, and get things done. My goal coming to August was to tape my first podcast, and for better or worse, here we are, and I'm so glad that you could join me. Like I said, we are in the beginning stages of this thing, and we haven't even settled on a name yet. I'm open to suggestions. Please leave some ideas for my Twitter handle, @DannyByTheWay. By the way, it is BTW, not actually by the way. There is a special prize waiting for the winner. Maybe Madden 20, maybe not. As I attained fame and popularity, the quality of my guests will soar. Till then, my father was the best I could do for today. I guess you have to start somewhere. So as I sit here, I want to make a pledge to my audience. My aim is to host the greatest sports podcast on the airwaves. I intend to build this thing brick by brick with passion, determination, creativity, expertise, and energy. Before I get to my dad and discuss the torturous life of a Knicks fan, I'd like to thank the kind folks at photographsandfinds.com for sponsoring our program. If sports is my number one passion, food isn't far behind. Photographsandfinds.com is my favorite food blog on the net. Navigate Chef Bird's world and discover delectable recipes, hidden gems, or book their services for your next tailgating event or fantasy draft. Again, that's photographsandfinds.com. PHOODOGRAPHS and finds.com. Also, please give me a follow at Danny, by the way. By the way, it is BTW, just for you guys that don't remember. Okay, so my first guest is the man who put a basketball in my career. The man responsible for my love of sports. My dad, Dayan. What's up, Dad?
Hey, bud. I must say the set looks fantastic.
Before we start, I did a little research and dug up this Facebook post you crafted prior to this year's draft lottery.
Uh-oh.
If you don't mind, I would like to read it to the audience.
Do I have a choice?
No.
Go for it.
When the sun set on the 1973 NBA season, the New York Knicks had the ultimate basketball team. 40 years of night followed a flash of lightning that scorched Madison Square Garden with greatness. Starving Knicks fans have been craving for the league ever since. We have repeatedly watched with admiring eyes as other franchises flourish. Tonight, the Knicks embark on an historic, long journey to bring that winning feeling back to the city. The fever of possibility looms large over New York. The draft lottery is an epic scope. Zion Williamson is arguably the most hyped prospect to enter the league since LeBron James. He steps onto the court with eyes like a bad dog and makes defenders shudder at the sight of him slashing them away. Securing his rights is the first part of the plan. Similar scenarios to alter the destiny of this franchise have presented themselves before. However, if history is any indicator, the lottery odds will dash the dreams and visions of Knicks fans everywhere. Maybe, just maybe, we'll wake up tomorrow and the sun will rise again. Is it safe to say it is still dark in Knicks Nation? Okay, before we get into the offseason and your memories, I have to ask, you say you love me more than anything in this world. Why would you want to see your child suffer by passing on your love of the Knicks to me?
Oh, first of all, I do love you more than anything in this world, and I'm so proud of you every day, bud. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. As far as passing my fandom of this franchise to you, it wasn't an easy decision, but you've been on this earth for 10 years now, and you understand that you can't have the sweet without the sour. You can't have the sunny day without the rainy day. You wouldn't appreciate it, right? It's something that I grew up with my dad and my family, my cousins and my uncles, and it's just something that's always been in the family. We've always had a passion for basketball, and the Knicks have always been our team, for better or worse, mostly worse. But I didn't have a choice in the matter, and you didn't have a choice in the matter. You were always going to be a Knicks fan.
Well, I mean, I was helpless at that point, so technically, I would have to be a Knicks fan either way.
I remember when you were 4 years old and you used to cry after they lost, and I said, "Get used to it, kid. Don't cry after every game." And I'm sure you've gotten used to it by now.
Why did you become a Knicks fan? Simple question.
Why did I become a Knicks fan? Well, like I said, I've always had a passion for basketball. My uncles played basketball, Division I college, on my mother's side. My father was a huge basketball fan. He's from Israel, so the two sports for him were soccer and basketball. Soccer never took, it's not really as big in the States as it is around the world. It is the most popular sport in the world, but not really in the States. But growing up in the city, basketball is a city game. You could walk every 2-3 blocks and you find a park, and you have people playing pickup games and shooting around, and it's the great equalizer. You could come from any walk of life, and you get judged on your own merit when you're on that court. Why I became a Knicks fan? Like I said, I have a passion for basketball. I'm a New Yorker. I ride or die with my team. It hasn't been easy, but one day, the glory will be back in the Garden.
Since you lived in Brooklyn, did it ever strike you to become a Nets fan?
It's a great question because I love Brooklyn, I love the borough, I love everything it stands for. I love the diversity, I love the food, I love the people, I love the culture. Brooklyn is my home, it's my heart. That being said, they will always be the New Jersey Nets to me. Okay? When I grew up, they played in the Brendan Byrne Arena, or the Meadowlands, however you want to call it. And look, like I said before, I'm an old school New Yorker, okay? I grew up in the 90s. Oakley, Mason, Starks, Ewing, of course, Riley, Van Gundy. I mean, the list goes on. The thought of switching over to another team now at this point in my life is unrealistic. It's something that would never happen. I just hope that the Knicks reward me and win at least one championship in my lifetime.
So I know like I said, you grew up in Brooklyn, and you talk about the borough with so much love, with all the buzz surrounding the Brooklyn Nets and their free agent acquisitions. Have you given any thought of, scratch that.
Okay.
We've been to many arenas.
I know what you were going to ask me. Let me just say this. As you read my Facebook post, I was really optimistic going into this offseason. I felt the Knicks had a realistic shot at landing two highly coveted free agents. Unfortunately, things didn't play out that way. And I will say that when the Nets signed Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, it felt like I was punched in the stomach. It was not a good feeling. Now that I've had time to reflect on it, like most things in life, you take a step back. You don't really know how things are going to work out. But looking at it, looking at the way the contracts were structured, looking at the health history of both players, looking at some other components to it, it wasn't the end of the world.
We've been to so many arenas, stadiums, and ballparks, but there's definitely something about the Mecca, Madison Square Garden.
It sure is.
What were some of your most memorable experiences there?
First, let me say, we've been to tremendous ballparks, stadiums, arenas throughout the country. But nothing compares to Madison Square Garden. The Knicks are a perennial loser, but that place is sold out every night, and there's an energy in there that you can't compare to any other arena in the country, or maybe the world, right? The world's most famous arena. What were some of my most memorable experiences in that building? The first one that comes to mind was actually not a Knicks game. I was in middle school, I was in 8th grade, and when I say basketball, it's a city game. There's a major tradition, maybe you know. There's a big college tournament that happens at the Garden every year. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Big East tournament.
Yeah, the Big East tournament, absolutely.
Went to the Big East championship.
And when I was growing up, the Big East was the conference, okay? You had St. John's in their glory days with Lou Carnesecca and his sweaters, Chris Mullin, who was from Brooklyn, who went to Severian. Mark Jackson is a New York point guard, played for St. John's, Walter Berry, the list goes on and on. Syracuse had Pearl Washington. I mean, he was the pioneer. He's the guy that Mark Jackson, Kenny Anderson, Stephon Marbury all look up to, right? All modeled their game after. Pearl Washington was great at Syracuse. Syracuse has always been a contender. Then you had Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, La Jolla Destroyer with John Thompson. The league was just so competitive and so tough. You know, like the city itself, like New York itself, that gritty toughness, and it came through. Long story short, because I don't want to bore your audience, is I'd say it was about in my middle school year, 6th to 8th grade. I don't remember exactly what grade I was in. I was with 3 of my brothers, or 3 of my friends. My friend Cody, who you know, my friend Andrew, who you know, right? And my friend Jack, who you haven't met. And we went to go see the Big East Championship game, 8 o'clock at night, Madison Square Garden. Danny, I have never been in a building with this much tension, energy, excitement, okay, going on at one time. There's something about rooting for your college team or your alma mater. There's a real connection there, right? Like, I go here. I'm prideful about it. And you had a whole building just divided between Georgetown and UConn. Now, we know Georgetown is a storied franchise, but a little later on, UConn really stepped up their game once Jim Calhoun took over and became the coach over there. And they started to become the kings of the Big East, and they were winning national championships. They were beating Duke and the like, right? This particular game saw 2 superstars going at each other. Perhaps you heard of them. For Georgetown, you had a small guard named Allen Iverson, who many ball players still emulate to this day. He changed the way players look. He changed the way players dress. He changed the way players talk. If he had something to say, he didn't hide it. There's something called politically correctness, which is something we'll get into later. But if something was on Allen Iverson's mind, you were going to hear about it. And then on the other side of the court for UConn, you had Ray Allen, silky smooth jump shooter, effortless, shades of your father on the court. You know, just a wonderful, wonderful shooter. And this game was like a seesaw, right? Back and forth. Back and forth. It was Georgetown, it was UConn. It was Georgetown, it was UConn. Each of the teams went on a run. Well, anyway, the game came down to the wire, and Ray Allen hit the game-winning shot. The place went nuts. I never heard the Garden like that in my life. We ran onto the floor. My friend Cody was hanging from the rim. And we were, you know, we didn't go to UConn. We didn't go to Georgetown. We were young kids. But just to be on that court with everybody celebrating, it was something that I'll never forget. And that being said, I'm going to pull up Ray Allen. And this is what I saw. Mind you, Daddy's nowhere near the front. I'm all the way up top. Now watch Ray Allen when he comes off the screen. He's thinking about passing. Last minute, he's got to do this like bicycle thing and shoot it, and miraculously it goes in. You saw how he was going to kick the 3 and made the shot? Iverson still has a chance. There's Ray. Jesus Shuttlesworth. He got game. There's Iverson. Heartbroken. So yeah, I would say that was a real memorable experience for me. And something I'll never forget. And something that I'll always share with, you know, those 3 buddies of mine. We'll never forget it. It's a great question. Hopefully you'll have some of those memorable experiences yourself if you haven't already.
So, it doesn't sound like being a Knicks fan is all bad. I hear you on the phone reminiscing about the 90s Knicks. What can you tell me about those days?
Ooh, the 90s Knicks. Well, you know, they're tough like Daddy. No layups was the rule. Oakley, Ewing, Anthony Mason, they were the front court, the two forwards in the center. If you wanted a layup, or if you wanted to drive in the lane and score inside in the paint, it wasn't going to be easy. These guys came to play every night. Patrick Ewing gets a bad rap. Let me tell you something about Patrick Ewing. He did not have a lot of talent around him. Patrick Ewing went to the playoffs every year. Patrick Ewing won division titles. Patrick Ewing went to finals. Okay, yes, we had our hearts broken by Michael Jordan. Yes, we had our hearts broken by Reggie Miller. Yes, we should have won in Houston in '94. But, 20 years later, looking back on the 90s, I can appreciate Patrick Ewing for all that he did for the Knicks. And that was just the front court. If you look at my jersey right now, I'm wearing a guy by the name of John Starks. John Starks was a fiery shooting guard. He was streaky. He either was really hot or really cold. He won us a lot of games. He lost us a lot of games. And I'll get into Game 7 in 1994. I believe it was a 2 for 18 performance. But speaking of memorable performances at the Garden, one thing John Starks does have that he could brag about is called the dunk, okay? And he dunked on Michael Jordan and I believe Horace Grant, and the crowd went wild. I want you to be the judge, though. Did he really dunk on both of them, or is it just myth? Let's see it. You be the judge, Dan.
There are 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Starks. Yes. What a move by Starks, who was able to sky to the basket.
Good to see you again.
Player in the NBA.
On Grant for sure. Jordan came in at the very end, you saw? But on Grant for sure, right?
John Starks started slowly, did not have a productive first half offensively, although he continues.
Anyway, that was the dunk. And you see posters and t-shirts, and it lives in Nick lore, and there's the man. There's the man. He played with a fire, Dan, an intensity, a lot like you do on the court. He left it all out there, and he gave 100% every time he was on the court. Did he always get the great results? No. But he always played his hardest, and he always played with everything he had. So the 90s Knicks, passion, intensity, professional, but if you ask me to sum them up in one word, tough. They were tough, like the city itself.
Talk to me about the 94 and 99 seasons, in particular, when the Knicks were on the verge of winning a championship.
Well, they were on the verge both seasons, okay? Both seasons were quite different. In 94, the Knicks were favored. This is the year Michael Jordan takes a year off to go play baseball. So a window is open, right? He's the one that, the Jordan Bulls, that's a team that the Knicks could not, get past all these years, 5-6 years in the playoffs, losing to them. So Jordan goes to play baseball in 94, and the Knicks finally make it to the NBA Finals. Who's standing in their way? The Houston Rockets and Akeem Olajuwon, another all-time great center. I showed you the Dream Shake, all that, the other, right? And he was a phenomenal player, and the team was great. They had a nice backcourt of Kenny Smith, who also went to North Carolina, Vernon Maxwell, a rookie named Sam Cassell, who would hit a lot of clutch shots. But at the end of the day, the Knicks should have won that series. We were up 3-1 going back to Houston. Okay? Yes.
Oh my.
No, I'm sorry. We were up 3-2 going back to Houston with 2 games left. Game 6 was a close one. Houston won. Game 7, and this is when I said John Starks could either make or break you. I thought Pat Riley, who's one of the all-time great coaches, did us a disservice and didn't rein in Starks. Starks was a streak shooter. But that night, he was off. And the problem was, he never stopped shooting. He went 2 for 18 in Game 7. 2 for 18. We ended up losing, and it was brutal. It was brutal because it was a wonderful time in New York. The Rangers won the World Cup in '94 after 40 years. They hadn't won it since 1940. It was just a wonderful time. It was a missed opportunity, like I said. We could taste it. We were a game away, but it just wasn't in the cards. And the Rockets had other ideas, and we have to give them credit and give them respect because Olajuwon and the rest of the squad played tremendous. '99 was a different story. We were the 8th seed. We beat the 1 seed Miami in the first round. What happened was